These are the secret photographic sketches and journals of Agent 51. Today I have an exclusive. I have found documented evidence of Agent 51's falling plate camera designs, and in this exclusive episode I have found an artifact which is Agent 51's very first falling plate camera. Yes, the very camera here in the studio live. Stay tuned. In our previous episode, I had showed you some of the documentation, the notebooks that I had acquired of Agent 51's work. And this is the earliest notebook that I've been able to find, dated 1996 through 97. And in here, I found a number of sketches outlining his ideas for what he calls a falling plate camera. And let's look at some of these sketches first of all. This is Agent 51's earliest sketch of a falling plate camera. There's no actual date on this sketch, but we're assuming it's around 1996 or so. This sketch is an outline, it's a side view of a camera, and there appears to be film plates stacked in the back of the camera, and then the plates fall down to the bottom, and there's some way that the bottoms of the film plates are connected together, and there's some kind of a track system with pins that are allowing it to fall down. Then if you go forward in time, then there are these other more complicated designs involving falling plates or moving plates, where this is like the top view of a camera, and there is a magazine with plates loaded, and they swing into the film plane, and then when they're done they swing back out into the unloaded section. And it's kind of a complicated design. I suspect Agent 51 never built that. Then this is June of 1997. Agent 51 is working with falling plate cameras where it looks like it's a 3-ring binder system, that these plates are bound together, ring bound on some kind of a system like a 3-ring binder, and there's a method with these little tabs on the top of the film plates that alternate back and forth, and some kind of a knob that slides back and forth. And this pack of film plates can be loaded into the back of a camera. Then you go forward in time again to September of 97. There's more fine detail refining the idea. This is a side view showing one of the plates. It looks like the bottom of the plates have a hole in them, and there's some kind of a metal rod it sits on with a spring behind it. And there's one up on top also, and then there's some kind of a little roller system, a pin that slides back and forth and enables the plates to fall one at a time. And there's more detail. Here's a front view of the top. There's a little notch in the film plates, and there's the roller that slides back and forth to release each plate individually. Then you go forward to October of 97, and there's more refined detail about the same idea. It looks like he's drawn a light trap here in the top of the camera where the sliding mechanism goes back and forth. Again, you have these pins with springs on them that pushes the film plate up against the pin here. And there's a curved rod on the bottom that goes through a hole in the plate, so it supports the plates and then they fall down. And again, this is the top edge of the film plate showing the 2 holes and the notch system. Then we go, of course, this is still October of 97. There's more detail. This is a camera that is the same idea, but it looks like it's thinner materials. The walls are thin plywood. And then we go into the same month, October. It looks like he did a lot of designing in October of 97. Again, the same idea for a pinhole camera. Here's the whole camera cross-section, the pinhole and the shutter. The back of the camera that pulls off shows the detail of the light trap. Here's the film plates, the little rod it sits on, the release mechanism up here. Here's how each film plate is, and the negatives slide into the film plate underneath these little tabs. And then finally, in November of 97, we see more detail about a ring binding system for holding these film plates together on a hole system. So overall, there was a lot of detailed thought put into some kind of a falling plate mechanism. So looking through Agent 51's sketch journals and also some of the writings he's made over the years, it looks to me that he was fixated on this idea of a falling plate camera as a way of solving the problem of how do you take multiple large format shots or negatives in a box camera without incurring the weight and cost penalty of using sheet film holders. And this was kind of an idea of making an integral multi-negative film system into a box camera. And he fixated on this for many years, and it looks like he's built several variations. And the interesting thing about this is I've come across an artifact that's very important, which is his very first falling plate camera, the camera itself. And I'm going to show you that right now. Are you ready? And here it is. This is Agent 51's first falling plate camera. This is an oak plywood sheathed box, and it's about a foot square, 12 inches square. You're looking at the front of the camera. Now on top of it there's a carrying handle. The front of it has a pull shutter, just a piece of wood that pulls up, and the pinhole is in there, and it looks like it's a piece of aluminum. The shutter is simply a piece of oak plywood with a knob on it. It's been painted black, and this frame up here it appears to be 1/2 inch plywood with a slot cut in it that enables this shutter to go down into it. So it's kind of a nice simple design. Here's the right side of the camera. You can see the knob on top, the carrying handle, and there's an interesting mechanism on the right side. There's this block and this machine screw, and there is a knob of sorts, and it looks like there's a little movement for it, a little movement. It can go up and down. Here's the back of the camera, and it has 2 of those blocks on it, and the left side of the camera looks very similar to the right. So what I've been able to figure out how this works to get into the camera is you pull out this machine screw. It just comes out of a hole right here. And I'm going to set that off camera. And then on the right side, it's the same way. This machine screw pulls out, and that appears to release the back of the camera. And if I flip the back around, it is a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, and it has this frame of 1/4 inch thick wood that fits into a groove on the back of the camera. And that is the light trap. It's this raised flange going into this groove. That's the light trap. Everything is painted dark. You'll also notice on the back side of this lid that there are 4 springs glued in place. And you remember from the sketches that we saw, he had kind of been working on the idea of springs to push the film plate. So what's interesting is we have the film plates loaded in the camera. And there appear to be 8 of them, obviously, from the labeling here. Let me pull the back one out and we'll take a look at it here. So it is a piece of heavy, like, mat board, and it has these sets of flaps on the top and bottom. And it's sized so that you can put a piece of 8 inch by 10 inch photo paper underneath the flaps, and it'll expose an 8 inch square image. So it's a square format camera. It uses an 8 by 10 inch sheet of paper, and these are 1 inch wide margins. So that's what holds the paper in place, is these little flaps where you tuck the paper underneath. You'll notice the set of notches, 2 notches on either side of the film holder. And if we pull out the next plate, which would be the previous plate, number 7, it's basically the same way, except you might notice here that the notches alternate. 7's notches are higher than 8's, and again 6's are the same as 8's. So the notches alternate up and down, up and down. And apparently what happens here, and I'm going to pull out the rest of the film plates so we can get down to the very first film plate. So there's the inside of the camera, and it looks like what he has is these two curved brass rods. On the bottom corners, you might remember that from his sketches, there are holes in the bottom of the film plate, and there is a set of brass rods on either side, and apparently what happens is when you slide the wooden dowel on either side, it moves the rods up and down. And apparently how that works is inside the wood back here, there is a sliding piece of wood that moves up and down, and it transmits the motion from the knob to these two sets of pins. So it looks like what I need to do is make sure that the knobs are down, and I put the film holder on the front rod, on the bottom rods, and here you can see film plate number 1 is held in place by the 4 brass tubes. And apparently the way this works is after he gets done taking his picture, he leans the camera forward and he flips the two sets of knobs simultaneously, and the film plate falls down into the bottom of the camera. And having done that, of course, plate number 2 would be ready to be exposed. And because the notches on the film plates alternate up and down, you can see that plate number 2 isn't going to fall until you lower the knobs again. So it looks like this mechanism works okay. I can imagine one of the problems he might have had is getting both sides to fall evenly at the same time. And also, he probably had to lean the box slightly forward at the time that he flips those knobs so that the thing falls down evenly. You'll notice on his sketch journal that the later sketches, he talks about having one pin up on top instead of these 2 sets on the sides, and that was probably because he was having problems with not moving them exactly at the same time, and then the film plate kind of hangs up and goes crooked, maybe. I can only imagine that might have been the case. But it's just a basic plywood box. It's made out of some kind of wooden sticks in there, like a framework, and sheathed in plywood, and it's very sturdy. The bottom has a plate on it with a tripod nut, and looks like there's a set of feet on it. And, oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to show you here, after we pull these 2 film plates out, basically in the bottom front of the camera are 2 plastic film capsules that have been bolted down to the floor of the camera. And I imagine the purpose of those is that when the film plates fall to the bottom of the camera, it won't scratch the paper negatives like landing on the wooden surface. I think it's designed so that the 2 plastic things, it'll support them and not scratch them. But that is Agent 51's first falling plate camera, a 8x8 inch format camera that is approximately 12 inches on a side, so it's a cube, a wooden cube. So in yet another exclusive, not only have I found Agent 51's early camera sketch journals, and not only have I found his very first falling plate box camera, but I found a binder of all of his early photographic experiments with this camera, and I wanted to show you some of those pictures now. Okay, so what we have here is one of Agent 51's earliest paper negatives. This appears to be the Sandia Mountains near Albuquerque, and it appears like maybe there's some snow or something on the ground. You can see some of the sky detail, perhaps. I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but anyway, you can see where the 2 top and bottom edges are, where it slips in that film holder. And then he made a contact print. So the negative was RC paper, resin-coated paper. You can kind of see by the shininess of it. And then the print is it looks like Ilford maybe But it's a kind of a nice print. Moody, dark. Here's the Sandia Mountains. Here's the snowy foreground, and it's fairly good for pinhole. There is some detail in there. So this next image is from around 1994, it would appear like, which is very early. That's before the sketch journals. So this gives us evidence that he actually had built this before he actually drew those other sketches. Here's another RC paper negative. You can see there is some interesting sky detail and the Sandia Mountains, and if we look at the print, he's actually made two contact prints, but one of these, he has some nice moody cloud details. The Sandia Mountains have nice dark tones, and you can see the tire tracks on the snow-covered dirt road in the foreground, so it's a kind of a really cool image there. And so for a pinhole print, a pinhole contact print from a paper negative, that's very, very interesting. Okay, this next set of images is very interesting. This is, it looks like APS-C graphic arts film that Arista Freestyle Photo used to sell. So this is graphic arts film negative, contact printed onto, I'm guessing from the notes here, this is Forte. You remember the Forte Hungarian-made photo paper back in the 1990s? What a neat picture. This is from 1995, July of 1995. Oh, this camera, he says, is f458. So this is an f458. Oh, and this film, according to the notes here, this is PlusX aerographic film. So this is the kind of film they used in aerial photography that comes in big rolls. But here is a print, and it appears to be like a light pole covered in posters and stuff. And that's a pinhole print. That's very cool. So this next one, this is again an RC paper negative of, it looks like a tall building with the shadow of a tree on it, and it's contact printed onto another piece of RC paper, and it appears to be kind of a southwestern styled building, with a stucco building with the shadow of a tree, the winter shadow of a tree on it. And the date on this is 1995, December 28th, 1995. Okay, this next one is dated somewhere around 1996. This is a paper negative, really blown out sky. So the print is on RC paper also, and it says Metropolitan Temple. Metropolitan Temple. So it's a very moody, high contrast thing, but he has some nice exposure along the front face of that building with the cross sign there. So this next paper negative is of more of a rural scene or a country scene, and it looks like it's some kind of ruins. And when you look at the RC print, these are ruins of some kind of I don't know what that is, but it's very interesting. Nice road that moves off into the distance with these ruins. Pinhole, 8-inch square, contact print. Now this one was dated 1997. This is a paper negative, and it looks to me like some kind of Native American ruins. And if you look at the positive, now this appears to be a digital print, but it is very wonderful picture, and I'm guessing that it looks like it's at Chaco Canyon in northwest New Mexico. What a wonderful picture that is. Pinhole, look at that, for a pinhole image. Isn't that cool? Okay, finally, this last one that I want to show you, this is from Tent Rocks near Cochiti, New Mexico, according to the notes here. This is another black and white paper negative, RC paper negative, and then he has a digital print of the image itself, and it's just a wonderful picture. What a great pinhole image that is. So this box camera of Agent 51 seemed to have worked quite well over the years. I wanted to show one more image, and this appears to be from the same area of near Tent Rocks near Cochiti, New Mexico. Here's the paper negative, and this is the print. It's these wonderful dramatic striated cliffs and this tree that's fallen over. What a great picture that is. So I'm pretty impressed with what Agent 51 was able to get out of this pinhole box camera and simple black and white paper negatives. Well, I was very excited over how I was able to find not only the sketch diaries of Agent 51 and to see how his ideas for falling plate cameras evolved over the years, but also being able to unearth one of his very first box cameras that uses that principle. And then we were able to see some of the images that he made with it with simple materials like paper negatives, contact printed. So what a wonderful archive that is, and what great ideas this, I hope, will give to you fledgling pinhole camera photographers and camera makers out there who might want to pursue doing something similar. Well, I hope I'm going to be able to unearth more of these secrets from Agent 51's sketch journals in the future. Until next time, you stay well and try to do some camera making projects of your own.